has been a major topic for discussion around the world, largely because in mostly the underdeveloped parts of the world, you have issues with women and sometimes children being denied access. I don't want to use the word denied actually, because when internet is in this environment, it doesn't discriminate whether you're a child or you're an adult or you're female or male. Once there is access, it becomes available to everyone around the place. But I guess there are some things that make internet available to people the way we know it. One is that the person must be digitally literate. And that's where sometimes women are at disadvantage in some countries and in some climes. And that is definitely a very big issue. You also have the issue of access. You want to be able to have internet when you want it. And because of the limiting factors, where in some places women are actually prevented from going to certain places or using certain gadgets and things like that, it becomes a big issue. So the idea is to ensure that we include all and exclude none. Like he said here, the panel will deal heavily on many of these issues, which should break down some of the problems and, if possible, proffer solutions. The ultimate goal, like I said, is to include all and exclude none, irrespective of gender, age, tribe, or creed. The limiting factors, like I mentioned before, such as access and the like, should be eliminated or reduced as much as possible. We need copious access, we need good speed, we also need the internet at an affordable rate. So, like Eleanor said, I come from both a private sector and a public sector background. I've been in regulatory and policy for some years, and I can tell you that most nations have designated policy pronouncements to address these factors. There is definitely no shortage of policy pronouncements around the world. But actions have left so much to be desired. So, I guess the panelists will be profiling solutions and maybe suggestions on how we can put some kinetic energy to the policy pronouncements that have been made in the past, both in the international arena and also in our local environment. We know about the developmental goals of the United Nations and the like. So, the problem is that targets for digital inclusion are set, but invariably hardly followed through. And there are reasons some border on the fact that some government agencies do not quite coordinate and cooperate among themselves. And we have examples of that even in Nigeria, where you have so many agencies working on this same thing, but hardly sitting across the room or within across table in a room to discuss how to solve the problem and make sure they follow through. I was looking forward to having the presidential advisor on ICT here, because he sits very close to the powers, and maybe he would have had some things to tell us. But I guess with the director of ICT in the Ministry of Communications here, I'm sure she will also have a lot to say. So with those few words, I'd like to say welcome to this panel, and I hope you have a very rewarding time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ndukwe. So I'll go straight to the panel. Very exciting to see everyone here. Just to say that this panel works across in many countries. Jane is a country manager for Avanti, she's worked in various countries in Africa. Funke is the CEO of Min1. Min1 is a submarine cable. I can't mention the number of countries that she works in, but you hear from her. Ashna, very exciting to see Ashna from CIPESA. You all know the work of CIPESA, a very strong civil society group. And then Moni, who's trying to hide from me, Moni, Director of ICT at the Ministry of Communications here. So very exciting panel. So I'll go straight to you, Moni. You've worked in various ministries, so not just the Ministry of ICT. Why is it that we can't get policy making? What are the problems facing policy making? Getting it into to be able to implement policy. Why do we have challenges?
Thank you, Elena. Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to be here actually, because I've always loved discussions around digital rights and all of that, and why Nigeria, in spite of all the resources that we have, we're still grappling with basic things that have been taken for granted elsewhere. Why are we not able to put traction into our policies or achieve, targets that we set in our various policies? You will all agree with me, most people here are Nigerians, that we're not short of ideas, we're not short of intellectuals and all of that, but we operate a system that is an irony of some sorts. We're so rich and yet so poor. We're so blessed with intellectuals and people who do wonders outside, who help other economies to grow, and yet ours is still crawling, as it were. I worked in various sectors of the, various parts of the government. The most one that readily comes to my mind now is Ministry of Finance. I was in Ministry of Finance for about 6 years, and there we had policies and programs to help government be more efficient, be more transparent. And this corruption thing, we've been fighting it from the day Nigeria was created. We had a major program to connect the financial management organizations within the public sector. And that is the Ministry of Finance itself as the parent or the coordinating government agency. We have the tax office, FRS, we had the customs, those who collect the revenue and those who manage the spending. So we had the budget office, we had the debt management office, we had the accountant general's office, constituting this financial, services organization, as it were. So we had the challenge of getting some of the processes. For example, when we call an instrument authority to incur expenditure, and the president at the time felt, how can I, give an approval for something to be done, and then it takes months to even get started? They identified all sorts of bottlenecks and all of that, and they said, okay, these financial institutions, we need to connect them. We need to be able to create a system where there'll be transparency in how funds are released and how expenditures are done, how budgets are made, and all of that. So the project was conceived, and a team was constituted, and the program implementation committee started work and all of that. Funds were released and equipments were, we had support from our development partners, 2 million euros. And then all the equipment were ordered from Europe. The consultants were also brought in from Europe and all of that. Now, the equipment was left at the ports for almost 12 months. Yeah. So that was when, some of us were now like headhunted and brought into the show. So when I got there, the first thing I said, they've ordered the equipment, but they are lying down there at the port. You know why? You know what the bottleneck was? For grants, any equipment that is procured from grants are not taxable. They're not supposed to pay duty, custom duty on them. And Nigerian Customs Service didn't get a directive from Ministry of Finance not to charge customs duty. The EU, they didn't want to pay custom duty on the equipment they feel we are giving to Nigeria. So that was that was one bottleneck. I'm saying this to create, a background for you to know where we're coming from. So they left it there, and nobody was passionate enough about the success of this project to just write to the Minister of Finance to say, this project is ongoing, this is the objective of this program, and this is a challenge we're having, and please approve that the equipment be released to us without duty paid on them. Nobody did that. So that was the first thing we now did, and within one day, we got the waiver for the tax, and then so it was like, this is magic. There's no magic anywhere. We just need Nigerians to be passionate about Nigeria and be interested in getting our country developed. If we don't have that, that's a big challenge now, getting Nigerians to truly love Nigeria and want Nigeria to develop. So that is point number one that I wanted to make. So we were able to just get out the equipment and did the installation and the connectivity and all of that, and we started, the something. But the project, if you want to know, now became the GIFMIS, the Government Financial Information System Management, that they are doing right now. Is being automated now, so you don't have to go and lobby somebody to get your checks and all of that. Everything is now automated. You just receive an alert when all the checks have been done. Now, where are we today? We're still doing policies today. We still have policies today, but we are still not doing as much as we should be doing to actually achieve the targets. For digital inclusion, We have a lot of policies in place. In fact, the Ministry of Communication was created in 2011 to actually push this objective forward, to get Nigeria connected, to get our people, working and living online and all of that. The challenge today is a little bit different from what we had before. Today, the awareness is there that government alone cannot achieve the success. We don't have all the resources, and we don't have the attitude, the right attitude to getting things done. But with the realization that synergies must be created, there has to be collaboration between the private sector, the public sector, and even the academia. And we all understand the linkage, among these groups of people. And civil society is doing a lot now to open, conversations around good practices, best practices that can, help Nigeria to truly grow. The problems are multifaceted. I don't want to start naming them one by one, but I just want to point your attention to the fact that Nigeria is a country of ironies, like I said. And this is very real. I want you to think about that and see the issues, the real issues. In terms of infrastructure, I think Nigeria has done a lot. We have a lot of capacity that needs to be taken, hinterland to the non-viable areas. And the 5 agencies under the ministry are, addressing the different aspects of this global objective for Nigeria. That is, having the right infrastructure in place, having the capacity of the citizens built from, students, workers, jobless people, and the different, sectors of the economy, agriculture, health, and all of that, and creating the awareness for us to actually leverage ICT in, getting developments in those sectors. So NCC, for example, Engineer Duque, used to be the vibrant, EVC that time, and at the time we had the broadband plan and all of that, which I'm happy to announce that we actually met the target, at the end of 2018, and work is ongoing now to get the new one, and hopefully the target will be extended from that 30%. We actually exceeded that to about 70% in the next 3 years or so. By 2022, we should be hitting like 70% broadband penetration in the country. Now, a lot is being done by NCC as we speak to achieve that. They have interventions like licensing infrastructure companies, and incentivizing them to go to those areas that are not viable. Coming into modern post services that will leverage ICT in improving digital and financial inclusion. So they have designed a program that is very robust, and my suggestion will be that the private sector, civil society, don't leave government alone and just be bashing and criticizing and talking about it. Come, engage with government and share these ideas, because the private sector actually knows where the shoe pinches. Government doesn't know, because government doesn't make profit. So government just spends the taxpayers' money, and the Commonwealth. So you need to engage with government to say, look, this can work for us. We cannot import ideas from other countries and, take it in wholeheartedly and line, hook, and sinker. We need to, yes, see good practices elsewhere, but bring it down to and then sit with. He mentioned that, which is very key. During his time, there used to be, meetings, a lot of meetings to rub minds with government to say, look, this works, this doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And I think we're doing that now also, and I think that we note the improvements in being able to achieve results when we truly engage with the other stakeholders in this program called Nigeria. The private sector, the civil society, the academia, and policymakers. We meet, regularly now to discuss issues around, why we're here, digital freedom, digital inclusion, and all of that. Now,
Moni,
yes.
Thank you very much. I think
okay, sorry. Okay, so
I think you've really set the ball rolling, but I think we'll come back to the discussions. You've really given some really good insights on some of the challenges facing policymaking. So I think we would have a first round of discussions, and then we'll come back again. So Ashna, you've heard Moni, she's talked about we need to have passion and love for action. And then she also talked about collaboration. What do you think the role of civil society should be in moving policymakers to action? What has worked in countries that you've been in, and what lessons can we take from that?
Thank you, Eleanor. We are talking inclusion. Dr. Ernest has mentioned a lot, and the earlier panel at the opening mentioned a lot around the digital divide and the digital gender divide. There are others that should be included and that are not very often included.
Come closer to the mic, please.
Oh, sorry. So persons with disabilities, I'll point those out first and then directly respond to the question on, thank you, on what civil society can do. So again, Dr. Ernest mentioned the SGDs. In addition to inclusion of the rural poor and women, the SDGs also outline inclusion for persons with disabilities in education, in employment, empowerment, political discourse, and the like. The UN Convention on Persons with Disabilities also obliges states to provide equal opportunities for persons with disabilities. Specifically, Article 9 outlines ensuring accessibility of ICTs, which include the internet, and also calls on states to ensure that private sector actors, service providers, including for the internet and related technologies, provide services and products that are accessible and usable for persons with disabilities. This, again, like has been mentioned earlier, would ensure that, in addition to the rural poor, the women, persons with disabilities also have the opportunity to realize the potential of technology for access to information, for empowerment, for engagement in civic and governance processes, access to information, and ultimately to development and improved livelihoods. Of course, many countries have ratified that convention, as well as having institutional provisions and the policy frameworks that Moni has mentioned to promote inclusion of persons with disabilities alongside other minority or marginalized groups. These provisions include standards. Again, Moni has touched on some of this for accessibility. So specifically for persons with disabilities, that would include audio, visual, and speech access, right? And compatibility with assistive technologies. Broadband, again, and universal access. There are provisions